Hey everybody, welcome to the official Do Good Better podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Kirby, and of course this show is all about small nonprofits doing great big things. We don't have a nonprofit on today. In fact, we've got partner in crime here, Abby Furchner, on the show today for episode 50. 50 episodes. It's officially the 50, halfway to 100.
Also, I just wish
work.
People were a fly on the wall to see what just happened before we went on. He told me I should intro.
Yes.
But for some reason, I couldn't say the podcast title.
That's very true.
So I made Patrick do
it. So here's the thing. So part of the reason why we're doing this today is we're indoctrinating Abby into being sort of a fill-in host for podcast stuff. So welcome your additional host, Abby, to the show.
No pressure.
So that was really for the first time, making sure that you knew what you were doing and saying the actual podcast right. So we have some work to do there.
Yeah, that's going to have to be, we'll practice that one.
But really, it's just trying to get sort of like hey, what are we going to do for our 50th episode?
Mm-hmm.
We interviewed a ton of awesome organizations this year so far. We're only like 5 months in or 5 months in to the show. We're always at 50. This is amazing. I love it. But we wanted to do kind of a special episode today before we kick off our official second season. I don't even know if we're going to be calling it seasons.
No, you have to call it season 2. It's like TV show. We
have a special guest lined up for episode 51 that we're not going to tell you about yet. But that's kind of where our head was at. It's like, what are we going to do special wise? Mm-hmm. Introduce sort of Abby as part of the co-host thing, and have fun with it this way more than another way, which is interviewing other people that we do traditionally in the official Do Good Better podcast. Right. So I'm going to let you take the reins on this. I don't want, this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the podcast mic over to you.
Okay.
You take the run at this and you will be judged. You will be judged by the listening and viewing audience whether you do it right.
Okay. Sounds good.
Your background on TV should give you at least
one
leg up.
You would think, but remember when we first did our first Facebook Live and I told you how nervous I would actually get doing Facebook. Like, this is kind of the same thing.
This is not live. This is recorded.
I know, but it's still a little scary.
It's very funny that you can do this. Again, harking back to our first Facebook Live together, is that you could stand in the middle of a field and or a active shooting site for like morning news and not be nervous. And yet a Logitech HD 80
camera and a microphone
and a podcast microphone is terrifying to you.
I think it's just because it's a different environment. It's a different audience.
Yes.
So it's just adapting and getting used to like the new way.
We are not interviewing for Karens. We're interviewing for nonprofits.
I'm going to let that joke sit there. I'm not going to say anything to follow up after that.
There. All right.
Okay.
Let's talk shop.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the floor. You run this. Episode 50, run by you, Abby Furchner.
Okay. Well, what I think is really, I don't want to do the cookie cutter surface level, hi, we're Patrick and Abby, and this is what we do at Do Good Better Consulting.
That's good.
Boring.
Nobody wants to hear that.
No one wants to hear that. So instead, I want to dive in deeper.
Ooh.
And get kind of the questions that people don't ask or don't think to ask.
Ooh.
Because, you see our cutesy little Facebook picture and you're like, they have it all together. They're always happy. And that's not always true.
No.
Well, for you, you're always happy.
Maybe.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that question though. But the first question that I thought of that was kind of a little bit deeper is Do Good Better Consulting.
Yeah.
Kind of came out of thin air a little bit. But what has been the hardest part when it comes to owning your own business? Did you imagine it to be this way, or what has gone through the past few years for you, and what has been the hardest part?
Hardest part. Here's a weird thing. The hardest part is charging people. I mean this in the weirdest way, where I know it sounds cliche, where find a job you do for free, and you should do that. That was always my biggest hang up, is I would literally do, if somebody gave me, if I won the lottery, I would continue to do this. And that's a weird thing to say. And I'm not, that's no BS. I would actually do that. So it is, it's charging consulting fees for service.
Right.
Finding my own value. And I think that's what I think a lot of nonprofits find difficult. And it's where I came from the nonprofit world. That's kind of where my jam was. And I think we feel our undervaluing is normal. Right. Our overvaluing is either like I'm overconfident or this is kind of what we're going to do. And so pricing selves was the most difficult, and still is. It's the most difficult thing that I do when I'm throwing an estimate together or a proposal together, and I look at the number on the bottom line, like, hey, this is 6 months worth of work. This is hours for a project, and here's the price tag that I know our value is. And I look at that and I go, shit, that's too much.
Yeah,
I know it's not. But my guttural instinct says we shouldn't charge that much. And that goes back to a scarcity mindset, abundance mindset thing that we talk about to our clients every single freaking day. And it's the those that can't do teach kind of bit where I cannot get my brain wrapped around how to justify a thing that I would do and I love more than anything.
Right. And no, I would totally agree with that, because I think honestly, like in meetings that we have, we could just do this for free all day, every day.
And we do, and we provide.
Oh yeah.
I mean, half our intake calls on a regular basis are you and I sitting down and just solving problems without sending any sort of bill. We'll never do that. That's really what I never want to do. But those long-term commitments, sort of like revitalizing or system building or event stuff over and over again, is hard to do.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part, I think, about that whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. Taking
a leap was easy. I'm nuts enough to do that. It's just like, well, let's just start a business. That sounds great. Mm-hmm. It's the now I've got to charge people for it. Mm-hmm. What was I thinking? Like that. Mm-hmm. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, and I can tell right now you're trying to not say swear words.
I know. it's our podcast. We can do whatever we want to do, but then our producer has to say, well, he said a curse word, and now we got to say it's mature curse words in there. So, Lee, we're sorry.
I just think it's so funny because I knew you wanted to say it again, and then you were like, and I was like,
you know what?
That's like you.
The hardest part is also being authentically and adjusting in between.
Yes.
Like I know you and I know how to do this, where we kind of hop back and forth between who we're talking to and what's appropriate.
Right.
And when we're out in the other room, cursing like sailors, and then how it's appropriate to translate back and forth. It's when we had a radio show here locally, my biggest fear was cursing on air. Mm-hmm. And now we can curse anytime we want to on here. I just choose not to. But then in regular life, just sailors.
Like going back in the day when I was still at Valley News Live, we thought it would be a fun idea if I went through like a haunted, like one of the corn mazes. And one of my producers mentioned, well, you should do it live. And I was like, no, I should not do it live because I don't know what I'm going to say once you frighten me. And I think that I could possibly be fired if I do this live. But no, I would agree. You adjust, but like when we're kind of in the element, you kind of like, it doesn't even like really phase. And then when we're alone, it's
right. Yeah. And again, I think part of that, I curse all the time. I literally curse all the time.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking with clients and stuff, I will use curse words because that's the amount of enthusiasm that kind of ramps up and amps up of like, hey, you are kicking ass, you're doing this kind of thing or whatever. I will say that out loud, and it doesn't matter who it's with. They need to know you're getting this. And I think there's an authenticity to it. Now, when you're trying to go out and you're projecting it's unnecessary. Going blue is easy. Mm-hmm. Trying to find descriptive words that will help incite enthusiasm without going blue and using curse words, I think is very difficult. And so we try to do that in the public square, and putting our best foot forward is not being the group that just curses a lot. I think it's used as emphasis on how excited we are about the possibility that we can help those groups, or getting people's heads out of their own rear and saying, you're better than this, which we spend an inordinate amount of time doing with like a lot of people who we talk with about how they're insecure. They're talking about like,
you just got to do it.
You got to do it. And it's something you got to effing do it is usually the way that we can get that point across.
that you gotta do it. Well, I kind of want to go down this train. I don't have any questions on this, so we'll just see how it goes.
I like it.
But I have my own opinions about why it's important to be authentic, even in front of a camera or on a podcast or anything, or even when we're in meetings and talking to clients. Why do you think it's so important to be authentic? Like, and obviously there's you can be professional but still be authentic, but I think sometimes people get behind their work desk and all of a sudden it's like, I have to be professional all the time. But like, that's no fun.
What the compliment that I go for, and I know I fish for them, is if you see what we do in podcast form or we do it online or we however that is, when I meet somebody in person, the goal is to always have, you're exactly who I thought you were.
Yeah.
I think it is so clear to who puts on a persona online and who puts out, it's why when I post on Facebook, that my kids are not angels all the time. They are, my daughter poops in the yard. My kids are, they're me in a 8 and a 6-year-old body. And so I don't give the shiny roses all the time kind of thing. The reality is being a parent is hard or whatever. So I think people appreciate that. The same way that I'm overly enthusiastic at all points in time. It's not because I'm inauthentic about it. I'm literally like that the entire time.
Right.
I don't go to a meeting and just like put on a show. That's on all the time. I'm literally like that all the time.
All the time.
And so, but I believe that you have a responsibility to do that. I read a book a long time ago called Happiness is a Serious Problem. And part of the gist of that book is you wake up every single day and you choose whether you're not going to put on a happy face today. You choose to be depressed. You choose to be not depressed, but you choose to be a grumpy, crappy attitude. Yeah, you choose to do it. The same way that you wake up every day, you choose to put on deodorant. Why? Because you don't want to smell. Well, but you choose to have a crappy attitude, that's the same choice. I choose to be enthusiastic because if I've got the ability to be enthusiastic, I get to go and spread that. If I don't, I'm not doing what I was put on this earth to do.
Right.
And I think that's really where if you found your love, if you're working in a nonprofit, you're working at a business and you do the things you love, you did it for a reason, or you know that you did that for a reason. So be authentic about what you're doing at all times. And I think there's a very fine line of over enthusiasm sounds and looks inauthentic.
Oh, I agree. Right.
All the time. And I think if you don't know us personally, or you don't know dogood better as a personal brand or myself personally, I might in a brand new square come off inauthentic.
Right. But that's it.
But that's it.
That's for real. Like that's not
literally you're going to get
right
all the time.
And I 100% agree with that. Like when I was like, I'd be lying if I said that every time I was on TV, I was always at chipper and happy. No, some days I was like, it's 4 a.m. I want to go to bed. Right. I don't care to be here. Nope. I have not had enough coffee. Yep. But like my thing was the same that you said, is like, I wanted people when they met me in person to be like, you are the same person we see in the mornings. Yeah. And what was really fun was like talking with, especially when I found my jive and my love for nonprofits and I got to work with them all the time. That's why I'm obviously here. But like when the camera was off, I didn't want to just be like, and then just be like, not talk to them and be like rude. And well, obviously no one does, but like, what was so fun is like actually getting to know those guests and showing that like, yeah, even though the camera's off, like I'm still this bubbly, happy. Yeah. I want to be here. I want to like talk to you person. Yeah. Like I just, because you can,
always tell.
You can tell when people are not who they are.
Yes, you can.
And so I'm just going to lay that there.
Yeah, you can. And that's the problem. And I think that's where we've set a standard, we've set a bar where we have to be on. We have to have that enthusiasm. It's exhausting.
Right.
You and I take different breaks and mental breaks on sort of the enthusiasm gap on like whether you go to do, working out or I'm sitting in front of playing video games or whatever the case may be. You need that break because you need to put forth every single effort. And that's what I love about this gig and love about Do Better in general is that we come with it every freaking day.
Right.
You know, it's you set the tone early, push all day. It's the same thing.
But what I love about us being authentic is that this gives us the opportunity for the people that we meet with to open that door that they can be authentic with us. Like, low key, it's fine to start your meeting with venting. Yeah. And like stress out. I'm stressed out about this. Do. Right. Like we're actually / counselors if you didn't know.
We did.
But
amateur,
that's what,
non-licensed,
unsolicited advice, we will give it to you.
Always.
But like I would rather them be that than be like, everything is going great here and we're top notch. Because we all know everyone is struggling during this time. So like, let us know and
well, I think we also know the reality that is on the ground with nonprofits in general.
Oh,
like, we know that they wear 10,000 different hats. We know from experience your, frontline sort of, seeing the super joy and happy event or things that you covered or with the news media. But you also know the dirty details of like everybody's just freaking exhausted.
Right.
Right. And then, my umpteen years in the field, I know exactly sort of the way that people react. Wake up on a Monday or they go to bed on Sunday venting and just like furious they got to go to work on Monday because they don't know what hell is going to break loose. And so I think that knowledge and understanding helps us go, we're going to get you back to that enthusiastic self that you did when you first started. That's really the key.
Because it's natural for people to get burnt out.
Yeah.
But what I found is like, if you're starting to lose passion for something, that means you need to like seriously pause and regroup.
Yes.
Find people that can help you.
That'd be us.
And just try to get back into loving what you do.
Even if it's not us. Even if it's just you just go on vacation.
You just need a minute.
Stop picking up your phone for a day or two. And this is where I think the nonprofit gets burnt out is that they feel like they have to always be working on the things. You're fine. Right. And so just giving yourself a little grace to not be the be all end all to everybody. It's so necessary because if you lose that spark, if you lose that passion, it's just the worst.
Pro tip. I know this is like this doesn't apply to everyone, but honestly try it, especially try it, Patrick, Kirby.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Unless it's like urgent, I made a rule that I will not answer or look at emails after 5 p.m. and before 8 a.m. Unless it's urgent.
I have a 3-hour window. I won't do that. So 5:30 to 8:30.
That's good. Or like have a little bit of a window because I learned had been discovering that I kept bringing work home constantly. And like I was constantly checking emails, constantly doing everything. And I just got so burnt out because I was always searching.
I got hammered on that, especially during pandemic stuff too, as I'm trying to balance, being a dad and at home and work and that kind of stuff, constantly looking at my phone. And I got called out about that at home. Hey, why are you always on your phone? So I put it away. I got an alarm every day. 5:30 goes off, goes to the bedroom, turn it over. That's it.
Done.
So
for 3 hours, a 3-hour window. That's
at least
good.
3.
If you, at least 3. If you can go longer, you should go longer. But so we just talked about being authentic, being positive. I love the analogy of it's like putting on deodorant. Yeah. Choosing what mood you're going to be on.
Best.
But why do you think it's so important to be so glass overflowing all the time? Like, is there a reason why you decided to live that way?
I just think if you have the ability to do so, I think that's mission number one. There's so much, you can read the newspaper and just be depressed about everything. And I feel like I never want to live in that sort of depressive sort of thing. So if I can do it, if I can be in a position to bring that enthusiasm, that glass half full kind of mentality, I feel like if you can do it, do it.
Right.
If you can't, I understand it. Right. So there's a lot of people who just cannot muster enough, tolerance in this world to kind of be glass half full. And there's good reason for it. Sucks. Most things suck. 2020 sucks. Like you look at the things that happened in 2020. Remember the forest fires in Australia?
Oh my God.
That happened this year.
2020 has just been like, I don't even know what's going on.
Remember when we nearly went to World War III with Iran because we assassinated a world leader? That happened this year. That happened. Like, it's the weirdest year in the entire world. And so I think you can get real depressed about it all. And I think if we do that, if we let ourselves get to, and I know there's an audacity to being positive, and I know that it sometimes doesn't work. The reality is, like, things suck. There's value in being happy. People are drawn to happy. Being miserable and complaining on Facebook is easy. That's the easiest route to go. It's as easy as me cursing in just rapid fire succession. That's easy. It's difficult to take that and make it, well, how can I learn and how can I do better and how can I be a shiny light in a dark place? That's hard. And I choose that route because if nobody else is going to do it, if not me, who? We say that a lot to the nonprofit worlds too. When we're working together, they're looking at their own advice or their own programming and services. And some people are they're the only group in town doing what they're doing. And I ask the question, if not you, who?
Right.
And there's not
someone's got to set the standard. Someone's got to do it first.
Absolutely, be the standard bearer. And I think if we can be that light, if we can be those individuals, and if we'd make a zero money off of it from a business standpoint, who cares?
Right.
Because it's not. Our impact is exponentially better than that.
Yeah.
How can we give people a piece of advice, or people who just don't have any other place to go for, just a thing? I've always wanted it to be that way. And that's why I love this business model, as infuriating as it probably is going to, how are we going to make business work?
Right.
Is, I think, having that added value of always being there for advice and cheerfulness is priority. It has to be.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think too, like one thing that's kind of got me through the spring of the pandemic is trying to remind myself that, like, everybody is going through this. Like, you're not, because there was times where it just felt like so isolating that, like, you were the only one that was feeling this way. But, like, trying to remember that you're not the only one struggling. And that's also what we tell a lot of our nonprofits right now too, is they'll come and have our little vent session in the beginning, and you can tell that they feel like they're alone, but everybody is going through the same thing. Like, everyone has kind of the same struggles right now. So that's been kind of interesting to see, but it's also been reassuring to tell them, like, you're not the only one. Yes. You're not the only one that is feeling this way.
I think that's really the key, is that there are people, because you're physically and socially distancing, you're not getting the story. Everybody's trying to put on a brave face.
Right.
It's not an enthusiastic or a positive, it's just brave.
Brave. Mm-hmm.
And because there's no acknowledgement that this is hard, because people in the nonprofit world don't want to acknowledge those things because they think of it as weak. And then what if other people are going to, like, you can't, give into a lot of those natural feelings, I suppose, because for the benefit of your donors, you want to be that champion of whatever. But the reality is, it's hard, and everybody's going through it. This is the great equalizer. This pandemic equalizes everyone. Like, there's no one person who hasn't been affected by this,
or 2020 in general.
And so that's the best thing that you can know or understand, is that you're not. This is the least you've ever been alone.
Right. No matter how much you feel like it, like,
nope,
you're not alone.
Absolutely.
So, okay, going into kind of a different route now.
Ooh, change direction.
Did you ever think, going back to the biz,
yep,
the biz side of things, did you ever think you would hire someone? Or did you think you were always going to be solo?
Always solo.
Really?
Yep, always solo. Yep.
So what changed your mind?
That's a great question. I always thought I would be a solopreneur. I always thought I would be a connector. So actually grabbing other people who did great things and just sort of collaborating as a whole. That I always thought. Not to toot your horn, but when you came and said, "Hey, I think I'm done, but I'd love to work in the field," is what really I go, let's make it happen. I was looking for an intern at this point.
Yeah, just so everyone knows this backstory, we met in February?
Yeah.
And I had been thinking for a while, here we are, we're spilling the tea, pull up your chairs.
Yeah.
I had been knowing for a few months already that I was kind of ready to leave the news industry. I was 23 at that time. I just turned 24 in May. I just like to age him, honestly.
It's so embarrassing.
But I was 23. I was really burnt out. I was dealing with personal things, with anxiety and things like that. And I was just like, I need to get out or I'm just going to burn myself out completely. And so I had spoken at the first annual do-gooders or the first do-gooders conference. Yeah. And that's how we met.
Crushed it.
And I was honestly just messaging and emailing everyone that I knew to see if there was either.
Wait, I wasn't the only one?
No, I'm sorry.
Son of a.
I'm so sorry. Spilled those beans real quick.
I feel like that's terrible.
I'm sorry. You were like close to the top.
That's fair. It's a fair assessment.
But I was almost like, okay, so I messaged him and it was more so like, let's meet up and talk.
Yep.
So we went to Thunder Coffee, had some coffee, and I was going to ask him either if he knew if he was going to be hiring in the future or if he knew anybody in the nonprofit world that had job openings that he thinks that I would be good at. And we talked and all of a sudden I left Thunder Coffee with a full-time job. Yeah.
So no, up until that, and I walked away with, what the hell did I just do?
Yep.
Or what did I commit to? And that, yeah, it's just really weird. I knew at that point, we were going to be busier than we could afford to. Like I couldn't take on the amount of things. I was dropping a lot of communication balls and just following up with people because I could not keep up as a single person. Like a solo person couldn't keep up with the potential to help. And that's really what I think got this thing started in the first place, where I was like, okay, well, I need an intern to help just communicate, develop some stuff that I just don't have time to, or I use a lot of my time that I could be helping others building things that I can't possibly justify. So I was intern. And then the possibility said, okay, well, now we can reach out to a lot more people. And then adding your skill set really bolstered what we offer is in general from a marketing and a media and a perspective, and just knowing nonprofits and how they work from an event standpoint in the background. It was invaluable. So no, I never thought it was going to be an actual thing. It's now an actual thing. And by the way, that is terrifying.
It is.
No, it's not. I don't think you know how terrifying
it is. Why is it terrifying? Why would you think I'd know?
Because I am now responsible for you in a financial capacity.
That is true.
It's true. And I think that's the most terrifying moment. And I think that was the hang up, I think, a lot that I had. It was like, I don't know if I can, you never know if you can afford these things. You never know that your risk of hiring is weighed up by the reward potential of reaching more people. And I constantly battled with that. Because I know I needed to expand. If I did not hire someone, I couldn't grow larger. If I can't grow larger, I can't help more people. So there was my chicken and egg sort of scenario. Right. And so how do you balance the unknown, knowing you can't project revenue because you don't know, because you started in the middle of a GD pandemic. Right. So the risk of nobody is hiring, we lost clients leading up to your hire.
Right.
So you had clients falling off, contracts failing, people just abandoning all the conversations because they didn't know what was going to happen, and you were coming on board. That's a terrifying proposition.
Yeah.
Now I know
you never made me feel that way though, which was really interesting.
No, because I don't think you needed to be terrified of coming on to something brand new, because I understand that you're taking a risk leaving the thing that you went to school because you love and then taking a risk and doing something completely radically different. So it would be, I've had terrible bosses before that made you feel like just absolute garbage.
Right.
So I'm using all of my experiences from bad management in order to do the opposite of those things. And one of those things is projecting my fiscal and emotional insecurity on stuff onto other people. You can't do that as a you have to shoulder that as a manager, or get out of the office in order to talk about those things with somebody else, because you can't let that go back to your employees.
Right.
If I sat there and just ripped on the ability to afford somebody your first 3 weeks, it would be the worst experience of your life. So you have to shoulder that. So that's terrifying on a regular basis. But then doing it in a pandemic,
it's like 3 times higher.
It's awful
on the terrifying scale.
It's awful. And again, I think it's funny because I think the payoff is going to be quicker than I anticipated, and the impact we're going to make is 10 times more than what we thought. But only because I think we hit the ground running, and we knew intuitively, and we even talked about it, like we got to just crush things.
Right.
And just get in front of people. And then from there, I mean, it's like, hey, reach out to a bunch of people. And like within a day, like, hey, we reached out to these people. Like, holy crap.
Right.
And then that started the whole cycle again. Like people are like really excited about it, and they're seeing the potential, and that's what kind of grew. So. Yeah.
And now here we are. And you can't get rid of me.
Nope, I can't.
Well, you can.
I could.
You could.
I won't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, to end it.
Ooh.
Final question.
Yeah.
Because I think this actually tells a lot about a person. What is your favorite board game?
My favorite
Hold
board
on,
game?
time. Because you want to know why this can tell a lot about a person?
Yes.
Because anytime someone tells me, well, I don't really play or like board games, you're boring.
I have 3, but for 3 different reasons.
Oh, okay. Love this.
So I love Catan.
What?
Catan.
I don't know what that is.
This is, oh God, I have so much to teach you. So Catan is like, it's like nerd games in a board game. It's like, how do I describe this? It's like a role-playing game, but you gather like things and build cities and whatever, and it's awesome. I like it because, never mind. Number 2.
Wait, I think I might
have you played that?
I don't know.
Number 2, and I'm going the bottom up. So number 2, the next is Risk. But Game of Thrones Risk.
Oh.
Because it has a button that you push, and every time you like play a card, it goes and it plays the theme song to Game of Thrones, and it is brutal. If you ever played Risk, but you haven't played with Game of Thrones, anyway, it's amazing.
It's amazing. I've never seen
number
Game of
one.
Well, I've seen the first season of Game of Thrones.
That's true. And then number 1, it's not really a board game per se. It's kind of a board game. It's a game itself. Dungeons and Dragons. I got into it about a year and a half ago, and I'm obsessed with it. It's so fun. I play every Monday.
See, I think this tells a lot about who you are.
Why? What do you mean?
Because
you have to say, now you've gone down the rabbit hole. You can't undo
they're just
this.
like kind of like animated nerdy games.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. You don't need to.
They're super cool. Love Risk. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. I feel like that's just like a more
nerdy thing. I always thought I would get into Dungeons and Dragons in high school. Nobody played that. I played Magic the Gathering, which is a card game, not a board game.
Oh.
And that's super nerdy. You play like super nerdy Final Fantasy games on Super Nintendo. Super nerdy. It's just a collection of things that I'm a dork for years. But here's the other thing too. Like I am a super dork and super nerd, so this actually matches personality-wise anyway.
That's what I mean. It tells a lot about a person. Like my 2 favorite board games. I love Candyland.
Yep.
Love Candyland.
Yes.
One, I love all the colors.
Sure.
I just love the game. Like I just think it's so fun. It's
this
candy. I love that game.
This makes sense.
And then my second favorite game is Life. Because I love how you can like dictate, and I could have the mansion, and I could have the dream car and all the fun things. You get to like literally create your life of how you would want it to go.
No, I get it. What about Guess Who? I don't like Battleship.
I loved Clue.
Oh, I love Clue so much.
We had the PS4 like game on the PS4 Clue.
What? No.
Glue. No. So you have the board game, but then it's like the actual like characters are like reenacting. Okay, so you have the board game. No, listen, it's really cool. No, it's really cool. You have the board game and all the cards and all the stuff, and you play the board game, but then you like get to pick on your PS4. Like you just do the scenario, you just sit on your board game, and then they're like the fun characters like go and like reenact it and everything.
Okay.
So you could like actually be in the mansion and feel more of the presence.
No, I get it. That makes sense.
Loved Clue.
Okay. I used to play Clue but not write anything down. My challenge to play Clue was I would just remember. Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. I don't know psychology, but
I know. It's a good question.
Love it. Tells a lot about a person.
Well, thanks for
50.
50
Number
50 whole freaking episodes.
50.
I hope this was fun for everybody. It was fun for me because, again, we're going to kick this off. Abby will be taking over a handful of interviews and starting her own podcast as part of the whole brand here in the near future as well. So it's really kind of a fun thing as an intro. Advantage having a former reporter and producer for a news station do question and answering for a podcast. Bonus for us. But that's super fun. So now you get to torch past here. Pass like a torch. For those of you listening, we're mimicking passing torch. And you get to do this soon and start doing episodes, and that's going to be fun. So enjoy Abby as a co-host of the official Do Good Better podcast. Hey, episode number 50. We're going to call 50 episodes a season. How about that?
There we go.
That's aggressive, but let's go. So season 2 starting next time. Special guests, announcements coming soon. Hey, thanks for joining us here on the official Do Good Better podcast, episode number 50. Thanks, Abby.
Bye.